offshore wind, solar. Dominion Energy is a leader in the clean energy transition. We're dedicated to providing reliable, affordable, safe, and clean energy as we support and invest in our communities in 16 states. Dominion Energy is building a clean energy future. Actions speak louder. Hey, welcome to Actions Speak Louder. I want to introduce you to one of my coworkers and friends. This is Scott Reamy.
How you doing, Peggy?
So Scott used to be one of our external affairs managers and got to know folks really well in leadership in Arlington and Alexandria, but now he is our design manager.
I manage our team that works on our connections for houses and commercial buildings. We essentially connect you to the grid.
But I also want to talk about our community support because you are very involved in the communities. You are now the chair-elect for the Leadership Center for Excellence, which used to be known as Leadership Arlington. One of the things that we recently kind of collaborated on, you asked me if I could help out with the last summit for the Leadership Center for Excellence. We wanted to play some of the interview with Hoda Kotb right here on Actions Speak Louder. Only Hoda Kotb. Hoda, thanks so much for doing this.
Hi, Peggy. You buried the lead. You missed something in the intro. I hate to say this. Here's what you missed. You missed that we were college roommates.
Well, that's right.
You hired me.
Yes, you have to thank me for your career because I got you into WUVT at Virginia Tech.
I remember so many beautiful things about our friendship, and I know that we're going to talk about leadership, but I think part of what makes people successful is having someone with two pom-poms who's cheering them on. And you and me, we've watched each of our careers. We both started in tiny markets. We both worked our way up. We both went through all the meat grinder of this business. And all through it, we cheered each other on. I think once you got a couple of good friends who are with you on the journey, man, the rest of it is just, hanging on.
You grew up here in Northern Virginia, and I know that there were people that made a big difference in your life. And I know your parents are two of them.
Yeah. You know what I think it is? Like at the end of the day, I think if you are one of those people who doesn't quit, and my mom literally, Peg, and you know my mom well, she literally believed I could do anything, believed it blindly. I'm like, I want to be a star basketball player. Oh, you can do it. Oh, I think I want to be an astronaut tomorrow. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And I remembered really honestly in my soul, believing that anything was within my grasp. And I think it's that because I feel like sometimes if there's always like a little piece of us that says, I don't think you can. I'm not sure if it's possible. And I think if either you or myself would have known the odds of making it in our industry, I don't know that we would have even tried because the odds are like a gazillion to one that you make it. But I think when you are around people who lift you up, you realize that when it comes to leadership and just being kind of at the top of your game, it's really a game of hanging on, and it's a game of not quitting and not giving up and saying to yourself, not today. I'm just not going to get cut today. I'm going to make the basketball team for one more day. I'm going to keep my job for one more day. And then one more day turns into 1 week and 1 month and 1 year. And then before you know it, people quit. Man, they drop out left and right. And you're like, oh my God, why is there open road up here? Like, you don't even know why. You're like, everyone just kind of said it's enough already. And they got out of the way. I feel like that's part of it.
Well, you have a great story that you detail in your first book about, just finding that first job and how tough it is in television.
I think that's it. The first break is out there if you want it. And I remember I graduated with my degree and you had your job. I still remember you were in Bluefield, West Virginia. And I was like, Peg's got a job. I got nothing, man. I don't even know what I'm doing. And I still remember having like a single job interview in Richmond, Virginia, which is like, an hour and change from our house. And I remember rolling up to that station in Richmond and fully expecting I was going to get that job because I was dressed up and I was like, I have a good resume tape. And I walked in and I remember visualizing in my head, like, I'm going to sit over there and I'll date you. You're cute. And this will be my space. And I remember the news director looking at my tape, rejecting it out of hand. He was like, you are so not ready for Richmond. I don't know why someone sent you here, but good luck, bye-bye. And as I was leaving, he's like, wait, before you go, I got a buddy of mine who's hiring in Roanoke. If you go to Roanoke, I bet he'll hire you. And I remembered thinking, well, how did I not get hired here? And I literally like blindly drove to Roanoke, Virginia that same day. And I was, in my mom's borrowed car. I rolled up there. I'm like, I'm getting this job. It's Roanoke. Everyone can get a job here. I thought. He put the tape in and he was like, oh no, dear, you're so not ready for Roanoke. And I remember thinking like, oh my God, like I thought I'd be able to get this job in a heartbeat. And then he said to me, well, before you go, I got a buddy who's hiring. And that buddy was in Memphis, Tennessee. And Peg, I drove across the great state of Tennessee. I just kept going and I got rejected in Memphis out of hand. And he told me about somebody. I was literally driving around like a maniac with one bad, horrible resume tape that I kept repeatedly showing every news director. I'm like, I'm really crummy. Here's proof. And I just kept doing it until I was so depressed and
Oh,
I felt like this big. And I remember I was driving, my mom needed the car. She's like, just come home. I need the car. I was like, I'll do some other job. I don't know what. And I remember, they say like God gives you a sign. I remember I was driving home from the South. I was in the Panhandle. I don't remember. I was driving north and I looked up and I was in Mississippi and I got kind of tangled around and I saw a sign and it said something like Greenville, Mississippi, our eye is on you, WXVT. I was like News Center 15. I'm like, all right, let me get rejected there. And I roll up and a news director, like my life was about to change. And I had zero confidence and zero anything. And I knew I wasn't good because everyone had told me before. So I rolled in and I handed this little guy, his name was Stan Sandroni, my tape. And he was like, hey, I'm Stan Sandroni. I'm news director and I was sports director and I just got promoted. I was like, okay. And he's like, and so I gave him my tape and he's like, what's your name? I go, it's Hoda. Come on in, Hilda. Let's go check her out. So I remember he put the tape in and he watched it. And he kept watching it and I could feel my own heart beating. I was like, oh my God, oh my God. And he stopped it at the end and he goes, Hilda. I was like, yeah. He goes, I like what I see. And he hired me that day and it changed the world. And I was thinking to
yeah,
myself, it just taught me one of the biggest life lessons, which is you just need one person. Not everyone has to love you. You need one person. You need your Stan Sandroni. Like everyone needs one.
right.
And I think if you look hard enough, that person's out there. Like, this is weird, Peg. I just took Haley to the park yesterday.
Uh-huh.
She was at the park and she walked up and asked a kid to play with her and the kid said no. And so she said to me, Mom, she said no. I said, that's okay. Ask somebody else. So she walked up to another kid and said, will you play with me? And the kid said no. I was like, oh God, this is starting not to get great. Anyway, she walked back over to me and I was thinking, this is good. And she said, no. I said, okay. I go, well, why don't you try that kid? And this girl had a bracelet on her and it said Sybil. I was like, please God, let Sybil say yes. And she walked over to Sybil and she goes, will you play with me? And Sybil goes, Dad, I want to swing. And she walked with her dad away. And Haley kind of slumped next to me. And she said, I really want to play with Sybil. I go ask her again. She asked her again. And Sybil said, okay, you want to find rocks with me? They literally walked off holding hands. And that
Oh,
was that was it. That was it. If you ask 15 people to dance, somebody's going to say yes. I feel like I learn the most about leadership and perseverance when I sit and talk to people.
mhm.
And like, I remember I was interviewing Tyler Perry once about something, and he told me a story about how he was dirt poor in Louisiana. He like was abused. He would hide
Mm,
underneath of his porch and make believe characters up in his head.
mm,
But one of the things he said that struck me so was he said, when he was homeless at one point, but he said one of the things he liked to do was he would find open houses and walk through them.
mm.
And then he would go to car lots and ask to drive the fanciest car in the lot. And I said, why? And he said, oh, because I wanted to see the place I was going to live. I wanted to ride in the car I was going to drive. And it was all about visualizing, seeing what was possible, really believing it. I mean,
Mm.
imagine you have nothing and you're walking through a mansion. He said he felt it inside that he was going to live in a place like that. I remember I was talking to Taraji P. Henson. I remember this too. And she said she got pregnant in college and they said to her, well, now you're going to drop out of college. And what's going to become of you? And she said, do you know what I did, Hoda? And I said, what? She said, I walked across that stage with a baby on my hip and I collected my diploma. And then they said, well, you're too old to go to Hollywood. You're 26 or whatever. She goes, I took my toddler and I went to Hollywood. It was all about, they could see it. It was
Right.
beyond what the odds were. And I think when it comes to leaders and people like that, like you see it in that, it's about what they do, because you can try to lead, but it's like the whole, you have to walk the walk. Like, here's an example. I want Haley and Hope to be of service. And I say this to Joel all the time. And I said to Joel, how do we do that? How do we do that? How do we do that? And I was talking to Maria Shriver like a few weeks ago, and I said, you're so much of service, that's all you do. I said, how did your parents raise you that way? And she said, oh, they never mentioned the word service. I said, oh, well, what did they do? She said, my mom founded the Special Olympics. So she woke up every day and went to work. And my dad founded the Peace Corps. He got up and went to work. They just did it. So I was walking down the street the other day with Haley, and there was somebody on the street, and I was trying to, if someone's on the street, you have something, just give them the something, and that your job's to give it. It's not your job to decide what they do with it. You've done your job. So I did it. We just walked by, I didn't mention it. And she said, why did you do that? And I said, well, if I have something and he doesn't have anything, I give him the thing I have. He needs it. And she goes, and I said, she goes, is that kindness? And I said, yep. And then I didn't bring it up again. I wasn't like, see what we do. And so we just kept walking. And she said, sometimes when I'm in school, I help the kids who need something. I said, she goes, is that kindness? I said, yeah, that's kindness. So I think from a parental level to a leadership level, it's like being the person you want your employees to be. Showing, like, look, if you want your employees to show up early, you're early. If you want your employees to be good listeners, leave your door open so they can come in if they need to talk. Like, I feel like, we keep saying, why can't I make this person do it? Well, you can't.
Something about you, Hoda, that is so endearing is that you put yourself out there. You share your life. We all know your kids' names. I feel like I know Haley and Hope. People feel like they know them. You share. You've talked about your struggles. You talked about the struggle with cancer, and you put it out there. Why do you do that, and why do you think that's valuable?
What's funny, when it came to with cancer, I so didn't want to talk about that, because I didn't like the look I got when I told someone I had cancer. Like, I remember having to tell my boss. I didn't tell barely anybody, because I was going to be gone for a while for the surgery and all. But I remembered thinking, I didn't like sad eyes. I didn't like how people looked at me. I hate the pity thing. I hated it. So I wasn't going to talk about it ever. I was going to do it, and I was going to get back to work, and that's done. And that's how, we do it in our house. Okay, done with that horrible chapter. No one's going to discuss it again. Shut the door and move on. And I remember two little things happened. One was, I was trying to walk in Central Park, and I was holding a pillow because of the surgery I had. They said, hold it. And as I was trying to cross the street, there was a breast cancer parade going by. And I literally stood there on the sidelines, which is where I was, and where I was emotionally and physically. And I watched all these women, bald and proud and pushing and raising money and awareness. And I watched until the last person walked. And I remembered standing there, like tears coming down. And I was like, oh my God, like, why do I feel ashamed? Or why do I feel like I shouldn't? Or why do, and so that happened, and that stuck with me. And then I was on a plane trip for work, and it was shortly after I was sick, and I probably shouldn't have flown. But on the way home, sometimes I feel like God will put someone right next to you, and you're like, pay attention. So I'm sitting on this plane ride home, and I just want to get home because I don't feel right, and I shouldn't have flown, and it was too early, and I just wanted to do something to feel normal. And a guy next to me like taps me on the shoulder, and he says to me, hey, what are you doing? He's asking me a million questions about life. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so tired, man. I can't believe, who's this joker? Like, I so didn't want to, I was like, fine, nothing, a brother and a sister, you just don't want to go. And finally he said, what's that thing on your arm? And I said, this was the life-changing kind of moment. I said, it's a compression sleeve. And he said, what's it for? And I said, I had a operation. So the doctor said I should wear it when I fly. And he goes, well, what operation? I go, oh, well, I had, surgery. And the doctor said, when you fly. And he goes, well, what was the surgery?
Oh,
And I was like, who's this guy? And I said, okay. I said, I have breast cancer. I said, but I hope when you get off the plane, you don't say, I sat next to a girl with breast cancer. I hope you say, something else. And he said, what is wrong with you? And I said, what? He said, what is wrong with you? He said, breast cancer is part of you. He said, it's like going to college or getting married or having kids. He said, I'm going to give you some advice and then you can go to sleep. And I was like, okay. He goes, are you ready? And I said, I'm ready. And he said, don't hog your journey. It's not just for you. He said, think of how many people you could have helped on the plane ride home. He said, you can put your stuff deep in your pockets and take it to your grave, or you can help someone. So you decide. And I remember his name is Ken Dwayne. I remember it like it was yesterday. And it was so moving to me, like I'm bawling next to a stranger, but it was a stranger who changed the course of my life.
mhm.
And once you don't have a secret, you're free kind of, and
Yeah, yeah.
feel unburdened.
And I know you've shared that story
Mhm.
before, and you've talked about your, getting through cancer, and that really helps so many people. They feel like they can talk about it as well. It's not this big, horrible secret and something to be terrified of.
Yeah. And I feel like you also pegged the weird thing that happens. I don't think you should have to have a near-death experience to experience this, but the one thing that it gave me beyond which I couldn't believe was it it gave me confidence in a way, because you realize like your life has a beginning and an end. And I remember it was right then that the fourth hour was about to start. And I remember I went up to the 52nd floor, which was where Jeff Zucker's office was at the
Mhm.
time. And I've never asked for a job. I never asked for a job. I'm always like, I'm going to work real hard and they're going to look at me typing. You're going to promote me? I'm over here. See me? Like I used to think if I was working, they'd notice.
Right.
So
They'll notice you.
I
Yeah.
marched up. I was like, let me tell you something. I had an epiphany last night. I got these 4 words that came into my head and here they were. You can't scare me. Like I'm free. And he was like, wow, like you're nutso. But I unloaded all of it and I walked out and I said, come what may. Like I said it. And if he wants to hire me, he will. And with the help of some producers who were rooting me on, I ended up getting that job. And I think
With Kathy Lee,
with Kathy
right?
Lee. And I
Yes.
don't think I would have had the courage to
Mhm.
march up there if I didn't realize and you shouldn't have to wait till you have some
Mhm.
horrible, scary illness before you get some mojo.
But think about that. I mean, you and Kathy Lee were just you guys were so funny together, and you could tell you guys were, are good friends.
Mhm.
It's just this chemistry that doesn't always happen, and it was magic, And I know she brought so much to your life. You became good friends. You became a huge fan of the theater,
I
right?
know. That's so weird. It's really about trusting someone. Like you have to
Yes.
trust the people around you in your circle. If you don't, whether it's your boss or your colleagues, like you have to believe that you have a safe place to land or else, and it's funny, right before Kathy and I took the job together, I'd never been to her house. She invited me out. I was like, what's going on? There's Frank Gifford. I'm like, oh my God, what's happening here? And he said, can I talk to you? I was like, oh God. And he said, listen, he said, I worked Monday Night Football for years and we learned a couple of things over the years. And I said, okay. And he said, the most important thing was the only way you have a relationship on air that works is if there is utter and complete trust that someone's going to catch you when you fall. And he said, I don't know you. He said, but Kathy Lee is the most trustworthy person I've ever met. And he said, and if you'd like this thing to work, he said, I believe you both have to be on that page. And I was so moved by him. I remembered thinking trust. And that was innate. That was from day one. So when someone's about to fall, you dive in and you catch them. And it
Yeah.
happened a million times for both of us on the show.
I mean, do you think trust is one of those issues that leaders face that they might do a better job with?
I think it's tough, like when you're in charge of people, and I know because we have really, really great leaders here too, people who you
Mhm.
would follow to the end like you would follow them anywhere. And I think part of it is there is that trust. And there's also like a real affection that's beyond like a working relationship. Like you have to really care about them, I feel like. It's so funny. I was just thinking, I was watching Warren Buffett speak, and I think he's one of the great leaders. And he was talking to a group, and I don't even know who the group was, but he said, you and I are the same. And everyone was kind of looking at him like,
Yeah, right.
what? He's like, well, you woke up this morning, right? On a bed. I had the same bed for 10 years. Did you? Yeah. He goes, you brushed your teeth, probably had some breakfast. Yeah. He goes, I got dressed in the morning. He goes, my suit is probably much more expensive than yours, but it looks cheap because I'm wearing it. And he was laughing. And so he said, I drove a 10-year-old car to work because I like my old car. I don't care about cars as long as it gets me there. He said, the difference is I have a lot of money and I can put my name on a building and all that stuff. He said, but what I realized at the end is all that matters is love. And he said, and I'll tell you how it's defined. He said he had a friend who was in Auschwitz. And that friend was always very particular about who that person allowed into their life as a friend. And that person had a litmus test for who got to step into their life. And the question he would ask in his head, each person who he met, who he thought about being really close friends with, was, would this person hide me? Would this person have hidden me? He said, if the answer is yes, then that person is in the circle and in your inner circle. And to hear Warren Buffett, who's all about business and finance, talk about love and trust really was moving to me. And I feel like, when I got hired at Dateline, Neil Shapiro said he had a no a-hole policy. He would not hire someone like that. And I remembered thinking that was beautiful and brilliant. So I think it starts on that level to know, because, if the saying is you're the sum total of the 5 people you spend the most time with, so choose wisely, like keeping that circle tight. And I think as a leader, I just feel like the people who I follow, who I listen to, are listeners too. They don't always tell you what to do. They listen to your input. And if they don't like it, they're honest. They tell you, well, you know what? I get what you're saying there, but I'm going to tell you, what I feel like is X, Y, and Z. And also leaders who can bend a little bit. But I just feel like, think about the people you would follow to the end of the road, and I think about them a lot. And I feel like the Tyler Perrys out there, the Warren Buffetts, the Tarajis, all these people who are leading by example. Like, I feel like I don't know. I feel like that's it for me. And I try, like, I don't know. I feel like when I'm stressed, everybody's around me is stressed. And when I'm calm, everybody's around me calm. So I'm trying to also work on that part.
It really boils down to how you treat other people.
Yes.
Loving other people, respecting other people, listening to them. And you had that interesting point about people you hire. I know our CEO at Dominion Energy, Bob Blue, he's got a policy, no jerks.
Yeah. Yes.
Similar thing. Like, we don't want any jerks. You've got to, listen to other people, respect other people.
Yes.
We treat everyone with respect. We have, employee resource groups for
Yes.
Pride, for African American. Everyone's welcome. Everyone respects everyone. And that kind of permeates through the culture. And hopefully, if you're a leader of an organization, a business, that you make that statement. Here's how it's going to be. This is how we will be, and everyone else will get the picture, follow along, right?
I think that is so true and awesome. And I think it's also knowing, as an employee or as an employer, like, am I where I'm supposed to be? And I don't mean, like, we've all had moments in our lives where we said, what's my purpose? What am I doing? And sometimes you're like kind of frustrated. What's my purpose? I need to find out. Am I supposed to be here? Am I supposed to be with him? Am I supposed to be, like, you're always asking. But I think there is something about when you get to a quieter place, not frustration, not anger, not angst, but when you really think, like, what is really my purpose? Like, what am I supposed to be doing? And I think if you have that little secret dream, that the one that you don't say out loud because it sounds so dumb, the one that you would never even share because you're afraid people would eye roll you, like, I just feel like there's so much power in speaking it out loud to even if it's just to yourself in the bathroom mirror, to a trusted friend, say it. Because, like, here's an example that's off point a little bit, but Peg, I always dreamed about having kids, but knew that I couldn't.
Yes.
But there is something about, like, look, that's something you don't say out loud when it's a dream, because you realize you missed your window. Like, do you say it out loud? And I remembered thinking, I met Joel. He's so great. We've been together for less than a year. He's got a grown daughter, and for some weird reason, like, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't rest. I was thinking about it. And then it just hit me, like, if there's something that's so big in your mind or your heart that you can't rest or you can't sleep or it doesn't leave you, that's a sign. Then you have to say it out loud. You have to speak it, because otherwise you'll shrivel. I mean, so I remember saying that to Joel. I remember approaching him and I was thinking, this is so cray. He's going to lose his mind. And I said, I got to ask you something. I said, I don't want you to answer me right now. I said, I want you to take some time to marinate. I said, take a week. He was like looking at me like, what is going on? And I said, I've had this thing inside me. I said, I can't rest. I said, I can't push it away anymore. And I said, so I'm going to say it out loud right now. He was like, okay. I said, remember, take some time to think about it. Take a week or whatever you need. I said, I would like to explore adoption with you. And he said, I don't need a week. And that was it. So in that moment, I knew a couple things. Number one, I chose right, which I kind of already knew. Number two, what my happiness meant the world to him. And that is because obviously on his own, he wouldn't have made that choice. And I just realized, speak it out loud, say it out loud. I mean, and what harm could have come? And then cause I actually was, as I was speaking at Peg, I wondered, would I stay with him if he said no? Because then that would mean that it wasn't important enough. Like, what would I have done? Like, but all that stuff was swirling, and then you just blurt it out and you say it. And then you're free. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but at least you said it. You don't spend your whole life going, what would have happened if I had only said it? But I think that's part of it too.
Okay, I'm just like crying here. That's,
He's
I
amazing.
kind of knew the story, but hearing it in that detail, wow. Yeah, you chose right. What a great guy. And
he's a great guy.
I mean, your two little girls, I think how they've changed your life, right?
Well, it's funny too. I feel like everything is right on time. My girls are right on time.
Yeah.
My career is where it's supposed to be on time. And I think sometimes we don't know when right on time is. Like, I think that sometimes your blessings come early, sometimes they come late, sometimes they come in the middle, sometimes they come again. Who knows?
Well, I am just so thrilled that you've joined us and you've shared, things in your personal life. We're so happy for you. I'm so happy for you. And thank you so much for your time. God bless you and have a great day.
Bye, honey.